Good morning. My name is Ben Garland and I'm in long-term recovery. And I'm making this video to hopefully carry a message of hope to those that are struggling with drug addiction or alcoholism. Never done this before, kind of weird talking to my video camera on my phone. Hope it turns out well, and there's hope that this will touch one person's life. I'm going to ask my higher power to set aside everything that I think I know so that I can share a message of His power, His strength, and His hope, which saved my life, and the power of a 12-step program that I'm heavily involved in. My sobriety date is August 20th, 2016. I would love to say that was my first sobriety date, but it wasn't. I have a sponsor. His name is Jeff Smith. He has a sponsor. I have a home group. And I'm very active in a 12-step fellowship program. I truly believe that in order for this to work, we have to get out of ourselves and carry a message of hope to other struggling people. And for that, I'm truly grateful. So my story starts out, I was born in Mount Vernon, New York. Um, Early on, my mother passed away from epilepsy when I was a baby. I was then brought up by my grandparents on my mother's side. I have a sister that's 4 years older than me. Um, if you would have asked me before I've done some work on my life and some self-evaluation, I would have told you I had an abusive childhood, but that's not true. Actually, my grandparents on both sides taught me good morals. They taught me right from wrong, the typical stuff that a good family would teach you. And I strayed away from that. Early on, I was getting in trouble in school, wasn't applying myself. The teachers would say I was able, but I did not apply myself. And that goes on for a while. Um, I had a good upbringing. My grandparents, they loved and cared for me very much. And again, they taught me right from wrong. I just strayed away. I ended up getting in trouble in schools. Um, I went to good schools. At one time, I went to a magnet school in New York called Grimes, and because I had exceptional grades, but again, I didn't apply myself, so I got in trouble there. I ended up, I can remember the first time I tried alcohol, experimented with alcohol. Me and some little friends, my family had a little get together, and me and my friends, we went under the stairs, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 at the time, and we went and snuck under the stairs and we started drinking warm beer. I got caught, didn't get into much trouble, uh, and I didn't, you know, nothing really happened to me. There were no consequences or anything like that. Fast forward a little bit, my family, we moved to Connecticut when I was about 10 and a half or 11, somewhere in there. And I can remember the first time actually ever getting intoxicated. It was Christmas Eve one year, and we were supposed to have family over, and I snuck downstairs and I found this big gallon jug of wine, and I started drinking it. And after, I don't know, maybe 3 drinks out of this big gallon of wine, I felt this warmth that overtook me. And I went back upstairs and I kept sneaking down and hitting the wine again. And I got extremely drunk. I got sick. I pretty much passed out probably. and I slept through Christmas. I don't know if my grandparents knew what I had done, but they probably felt it was weird that I would sleep through Christmas, one of my favorite holidays. Uh, didn't really think too much of it after that. I can remember I was really a defiant youngster, and whenever I would pretty much not get my way, I would throw temper tantrums, and then I would fall into self pity. I can remember as a kid getting into trouble, and I would immediately go to my bedroom and get on my knees and pray to God to basically yell at him and say, "Why did you take my mom from me? Boo hoo, wah, 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 wah." And that went on for a while in my youth. Um, I ended up moving. Well, actually, my grandparents moved me to my other set of grandparents in Florida in 1981 because I was just really disturbed, and I ended up yelling at my grandmother while living in Connecticut, and I ended up pushing a bathroom door into her. Told her I hate her, I hate her, I hate this, I want my mommy back, I hate this place, and so probably within a couple days she told me, so if you hate this place so much, it's simple, we're going to move you down to your grandparents in Florida. And within about a week, that's what they did. They flew me down here to Florida, and I started living with my other grandparents. Um, that was really kind of weird, and it was a change. When I moved down here to Florida, I lived up towards County Line Road between Pasco and Hernando County. I was about 11 years old. I ended up going to a high school or a middle school in Land Lakes, and there I had to basically become a chameleon. Um, a lot of people in Land Lakes are, I don't know what you would call them, rednecks, rebels, whatever you would call it, whatever's politically correct to call that, but I ended up fitting in really well. Uh, I changed I changed the way I would carry myself. I started listening to country music. I can remember going to Land Lakes High School, and that's in Land Lakes again. And I changed my appearance and the way I would conduct myself, and ended up continuing to listen to country music. I I just fit in. I'm able to do that. I ended up, dipping Copenhagen, chewing Red Man, going to keg parties, uh, and this is at a pretty early age. I can remember I had a friend of mine that was extremely older than I was, and I would help him work on cars, and we would drink a lot of Jim Beam. Uh, and for my age and my weight, and being like 12 or 13 years old, I could drink a lot of Jim Beam and really didn't feel it too much. Uh, didn't think anything about it at the time. I was just having fun, and I had a lot of fun drinking and doing other other stuff in my life. But the fun stopped after a while. After that, let's fast forward a little bit. I ended up so I'm living with my grandparents up towards Spring Hill, not doing anything really in school. We moved down to Newport Richey, Florida, because we were having a house built in Tarpon Springs. So we had a layover in Newport Richey for about a year while they continued to finish the house. I went to Gulf High School. um, I ended up getting a job in cabinets, and on my 16th birthday, I dropped out of high school because I was able to do that. So I did that literally like on my birthday. And I, even though I dropped out of school early in the morning, I did not tell my teachers, and I continued to go to class for about 2 or 3 periods, and they found out through, I guess, the office, and I was just acting a fool. And they ended up telling me that I had to leave the premises or they were going to escort me off. There was no reason for me to be there, being that I dropped out. So and I really wasn't doing anything in school, and I had this, what I thought was great job, just making pretty good money for that time, cash money, and it allowed me to, I was installing cabinets. It allowed me to drink and do the other things that I like to do, and had that job, and then, you know, life was still pretty fun. Um, I can remember I had some running partners, and we would, you know, I would ride motorcycles. We would go to Clearwater Beach on motorcycles. We would go to Daytona, Cocoa Beach, and I would always do this under the influence of something and didn't think anything of it. um, remember, my consequences started pretty pretty early on. I can remember getting into trouble, doing stuff that, I don't know, I guess you would call normal kids shouldn't do. I can remember breaking into a couple houses that, there was no reason for me to break into houses, me and my buddies, but we would just do it for the thrill and the excitement. Really didn't steal anything substantial, just did it to do it. And it was always under the influence. It's funny because I've heard said in some of the fellowships that, you know what I mean, and every time I drank or drugged, I did not go to jail, but every time I went to jail, it was a direct result of drinking and drugging, and that's absolutely 150% true. Like, I've never been to jail when I'm sober minded or sober. So, anyway, through a series of events, I've had relationship problems. I've, I don't know, I've had multiple jobs. I can't even count the amount of jobs that I've had. And I'm able to get a good job or get a job, and I'm able to succeed at that job and excel really quickly. A lot of the jobs I've had, I've made it to management really quick, and I'm good at it, and then I fall off really quick because I can't, I can't show up for life. End up constantly calling in sick to work, which is a lie. I get paid on Friday, and I'm calling the boss on Saturday because my money's gone. But I'm making up lies why I need to borrow money towards my next week's paycheck. Um, Throughout my life, it's just been crazy. I would owe people that sold illegal products, I would owe them more money than I was making that week, and I would have to see if they would extend credit to me. And next thing you know, it's just a big ball in motion of just financial crap, and just living not up to my means and not living within the seams in my pocket. I've always had a champagne taste with a beer budget. uh, so my what I've learned is that the consequences and the problems that I've had as a result of drinking and drugging don't make me an alcoholic. It comes down to power. It comes down to choice and control. I can't control, and I have no choice once I start. And I've learned that through a hard knock life of my own making. I've been when they talk about in the rooms jails, institutions, or death. I've been to two of those places. Don't want to go to the third. I've been arrested multiple times from everything from fleeing to elude violation of probation, um, up to commercial burglaries, and this last time I was facing 7 second-degree felonies in 2016, and you know that scared me a little bit. You know, and I would love to say that I can be scared into sobriety, but that's not true for me. I'm a real alcoholic, real drug addict, and the courts couldn't stand me. Police officers, family members, judges, they would always tell me. Psychiatrists, psychologists, go down the list ad infinitum. They would always tell me that this isn't going to end up well, and I would say yeah, and then next thing you know, I would find out it didn't end up well. I've had my tours and detoxes, rehabs. I've got about 8 tours in Baycare ISU, PIMS. I've been to Directions for Mental Health. I've been to Winmore. Um, the funny thing is Winmore was a very humbling experience when one time I was sober and I was taking meetings in there on a panel. And then within about a month, I was on the other side of the spectrum in there as a client because my life had gone to crap again. And I found that my life goes to crap every time that I think I have a plan and I think I know what to do, when really I just don't know. And I found out that the less that I know, the better, most of the times. Um, Alcohol and drugs became my master. You know, it really did. I've, I've never lived up to my potential, running on my own power and my own self will. Just to show you, the type of stuff. There's a saying that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, and I used to think that way. You know what I mean? I used to think about that with my father because he had problems, legal problems, and everything. And I've learned that I can't fault him while he was alive for the way he lived his life because he had an issue similar to mine. But I learned that I can stop that generational, what I call a generational curse, because I found a power greater than myself, which for me, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And that's just for me, that's my higher power. And I found that through a 12-step fellowship, through a church family. You could have tried to tell me this years ago, and I'd be like, not wanting to hear it. Me and God, we didn't have a great relationship. He didn't fulfill my Christmas list. He didn't get me the car I wanted. He didn't get me out of jail when I wanted him to. You know what I mean? I always ask him for things, and the way I looked at it is he didn't produce. And that thought and that that theory is totally bogus and false. I figured out that I start the whole ball rolling in all my problems in my life, and I'm the major cause of it, and I'm the idiot. um, so anyway, I tried to. I've been finding myself in a 12-step fellowship over and over and over and over again, and you would think that a person would wise up and say, well, why do I keep finding myself in these rooms? Well, it's simple, I have a problem, and it took a while for me to see that and see the truth. Um, I ended up getting sober through a fellowship that I've been in and out of. In 2012, I got sober. I went to a halfway house in Clearwater, and I got sober. Um, I got a 12-step sponsor that took me through the 12 steps of recovery, and I recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And I was doing pretty much exactly what he would tell me to do. of course, he would tell me some stuff that I really didn't want to do, and I didn't. And he told me it probably wouldn't work out well, and he was absolutely right. Even though, you know, I thought it was going to work out well. It was a good idea in my mind. But anyway, I ended up after about 3 years or so, I ended up relapsing, and um, that was another, I don't know, year or so run until I found myself, at my wits' end again. I was living in Clearwater. I had a full-time job, but that wasn't enough to feed my addiction and my alcoholism. So I would do other things, extracurricular activities to supplement my income, which were highly illegal. And it seemed like every time I went to a place to pawn some equipment, and I would give them my ID and uh, put my fingerprint on the paperwork, a little voice told me, this isn't going to work out well someday, and I would continuously do it. Like, that's the insanity. Like, I knew the insanity is knowing that this isn't going to last, and you keep doing this, but you do it anyway, knowing that this, what I mean, like, you're going to be screwed soon. So, anyway, that caught up with me. I could remember I was at my wits' end pretty much, and I'm living in Clearwater, and I got a knock on the door, and it's a knock that you really, in a lifestyle I led, you would recognize this knock. It's a knock of a maglite flashlight hitting on a metal door really hard, and I knew, what I mean, like I knew the jig was up. It seemed like. I peeked out the window. There was 5 or 6 Clearwater police officers standing out there. There were no police cars that I saw, so they must have been parked down the street. And I just stayed quiet. At the time, I had my daughter with me, and she was asleep in the bed. And my first thought is, I have something on the microwave that will take this pain away, and I don't want to get arrested, and you know, without having something in my system. So I ended up doing that. That was my first thought, and that's only a thought that an alcoholic or a true addict would have, because most people would think about the welfare of their child, but unfortunately I did not. And they ended up going away, and my next thought is I need something to drink, and it's about 11:30 at night. I know I've only got about half an hour before the stores stop selling, and I've got a dilemma because my baby girl's sleeping in the bed, and I would love to say that what I mean. I would love to say I didn't have that thought, but that's the thought that an alcoholic or a drug addict has when I've been living this lifestyle. So anyway, I grab my daughter, and I wrap her up in a blanket, and I go to the store, and I grab what alcohol I can with the money that I have. The next day, I ended up Baker acting myself, and to what I hope is my last Baker act. I mean, my last time. They ended up sending me to a detox up in Newport Richey, Florida. I didn't plan that. I lived in Clearwater, and I had already been to this detox, so my mind was like, man, this place doesn't work. And really, what I found out, what I know today, is that no, I didn't work the program. I didn't fully do the steps after the aftercare. Getting involved in meetings. Normally in my life, I'll have a dilemma. I'll tell myself I'm going to do different, but then the minute I'm free, I go back to, I'm like a pig returning to its slop. So anyway, I go to that detox in Newport Richey, and the discharge planner gets me hooked up with this faith-based halfway house called TN24. Stands for the next 24. And they decided to take me in. on faith. And because I had nothing, I had no money, I had no food, I had a truck locked up in Clearwater with all my clothes in it. Uh, they ended up sending me up here to Newport Richie. I stayed there for about either, I want to say 9 days, I believe. And I went into the halfway house. They had strict rules there. I had to attend two 12-step meetings a day. I had to attend church service. They took our phones, took our cars. We weren't able to work for a year, and that's exactly what I needed at the time to get grounded. We had to read certain things, certain literature out of 12-step recovery books. We had to do certain written assignments each night. There, I learned how to pray. I learned how to ask for help in the morning. Sometimes say thank you at night, and the story blossomed. I became a leader in that community. Um, I got heavily involved in church. That set up a foundation of and a ritual of going to meetings, getting a sponsor, doing this 12 steps of recovery. I stayed there for a while, and then even after that place, another place took over. Associate Recovery Communities. I stayed there for a little bit. I became a leader there. Then I became an administrator there, and then through faults of my own, I ended up leaving. Got fired, and that's good. That's exactly what was supposed to happen in God's world. Um, I end up, you know, I'm able to be an employee, so I have a good job right now. I'm very active in a 12-step fellowship. Um, I still get to go to that halfway or transitional living house to carry a message of hope. Um, I go to meetings there. Um, I've been a active member of a home group for over, 3 years, 7 months, and 29 days. The reason I know that is because I got a sobriety counter on my phone on one of the apps that I read, and I stay active. I've been active in district work through a 12-step fellowship. I try to give away what I've got. I try to get out of my head by thinking about others, and that's truly amazing. I'm able to be a father to my daughter now. She's almost 6 years old. She is the love of my life, and her mother trusts me now, which that was a time healing thing, and being consistent on doing some things, doing the things that I say I'm going to do. You know, making child support payments in a timely manner. That was one of the things that I always ducked and dodged when I was out there running and gunning. Like, I didn't feel that it was my responsibility to make child support payments, but guess what? It is. So I do that. Um, Actually, this morning I'm going to be going to pick her up, and she's going to stay the weekend with me. And I'm truly grateful that I'm able to do that. I'm able to be a father today. Um, I'm able to, see how somebody else is doing. It's not all about me all the time. And I know that there's a prescription to, you know, fear, self pity, morbid reflex. There's a prescription that works perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, it's simple. You know, I just pray about it, talk to somebody about it, make an amends if I owe an amends, and then turn my thoughts immediately to somebody I can help. And that's been working, and it's going to continue to work because I totally believe in the 12-step recovery programs, and they were man-made, but they're anointed by God, and He saw fit to help drunks and drug addicts with this simple but not easy program. And for that, I'm truly grateful. I'm truly grateful for Associate Recovery Communities and Recovery Epicenter Foundation. Um, Shout out to my friend uh, my friend who's an administrator at ARC. I don't want to break her anonymity, but anyway, uh, she's an administrator, and shout out to her for asking me to do this. It was really weird, but it was really good. You know, I was told whenever I'm to share my story, I just pray to God, and He shakes the truth out of me, and that's what you got today. And I want to thank you all, and just, you know, through this pandemic that we have going on in 2020. You know, I heard a speaker last night, and he made an amazing statement that we are making history right now with all the things that we're trudging through. Um, this whole the Zoom meeting things, and you know, essential stuff and everything. Like, everybody's learning new definitions, and everybody's becoming a scientist, and you know what I mean, me included. And you know, like, I'm learning more about sanitization, and I'm so grateful that I'm an essential worker today because I mow grass. You know, most of the time I would love to say that I'm a landscaper. I mow grass. You know what I mean? That's the easier way to put it. And it's a job that I love, and so we're making history right now with these Zoom meetings and stuff, and um, you know, there's hope out there. There is hope out there, and there's millions and millions of people that have had tragedy in their life. And if you think your case is the worst case out there, you know, like I did, and used to sit around, woe is me, woe is me. You know, the fact is that there's somebody out there that has a, a more bad case of circumstances going on, emotional stability, mental illness, drug addiction, whatever you have. There's people out there that are way worse off. So we really need to be, I need to be grateful for the things that I have. And the things that I don't have, I probably don't need at this time. I found that to be true. And so I just keep busy, because most of the 12 step programs are a program of action. You know, acceptance is the solution to my problems today, but with acceptance, I can sit here and I can drink coffee and smoke cigarettes all day long and accept my way into an early grave. I think acceptance with immediate constant action is key, and I'm able to do that today, but it's only because of God, and it's only because of people that carry me through this work, listen to my boo-hoo crying, and tell me stuff that I don't want to hear. And that's love. Love is a person telling me something that I don't want to hear, regardless of my feelings, so that maybe it'll open my eyes and I can see clearly. And today I can see clearly because the rain is gone.